The air in the xenozoology wing was always cold. It was a clean cold like the inside of a refrigerator. It smelled of ozone, the way the air does after a lightning storm, and underneath that there was a strange smell. It was a wild smell like wet earth and old leaves and something else, something sharp and unfamiliar. This was the smell of the animals that lived here, animals from other worlds. A group of young students called cadets walked into the large room. They were training to be explorers and diplomats for the Galactic Federation. There were many different species in the group. A tall, slender cadet with blue skin walked carefully, his large eyes taking in everything. Another, who looked like a walking rock creature, moved slowly and heavily. But this story is mostly about the human cadets, and one human in particular. The human cadets stuck close together. There was Min, a young man with a serious face. He carried a datapad and was already ready to take notes. He believed that rules and knowledge were the most important things for a cadet. Next to him was Jin, a young woman with sharp, observant eyes. She did not miss any details. Then there was Tai, who was less patient than Min. He looked around the room with excitement, always eager to see something new and amazing. And then there was Hana. Hana was different from the others. While Min was thinking about the rules and Tai was looking for excitement, Hana was just watching. She was quiet, but her mind was always active. She saw things the others sometimes missed. Today they were here to see a very special creature. It was called a Zarkon hunter cub. Their instructor, a tall being from the planet Valaria, stood before them. The Valarian had gray skin and no hair, and its voice was very stern. The creature you are about to observe, the instructor said, is a Katur, a juvenile of the Zarkon species. You will show respect. You will maintain a safe distance from the enclosure barrier. You will not make sudden movements or loud noises. The cadets all nodded. Min typed the instructions into his datapad. The instructor led them towards a huge, clear wall made of a strong material called crystasteel. Behind it was an artificial habitat. The ground was a deep red color like rust with large gray rocks scattered around. A small, slow stream of purple water flowed through one corner. The air inside the enclosure seemed to shimmer with heat, and then they saw it. The hunter cub was pacing. It was about the size of a large earth dog, but its body was long and built for power. It had 6 legs. Its 4 main legs were muscular and ended in large paws with claws that clicked softly on the rock floor. 2 smaller front limbs, almost like arms, were tucked close to its chest, with smaller, more precise claws. Its fur was a pure, deep black like the darkness between stars. It had a long tail that twitched back and forth as it moved, but its face was the most striking. It had a sleek, powerful head and 2 large, intelligent eyes that glowed with a golden light. When it turned its head, the cadets could see the sharp lines of its teeth inside its mouth. The cadets were silent. They could feel the power and the wildness of the young animal. It was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. The Zarkon, the instructor continued, are one of the most respected predator species in the Galactic Federation. Their culture is built on strength, honor, and the hunt. They are not monsters. They are a proud people, but their instincts are powerful. For a Zarkon, communication is direct. A growl is a warning. A stare is a challenge. Showing fear can mark you as prey. Showing a challenge can mark you as an enemy. You must never ever do either. Min listened to every word, his face focused. This was important information. He needed to remember it all. Tay watched the cub with wide eyes. He thought it was the most incredible and scary thing he had ever seen. Jin studied the cub's movements. She saw how its muscles moved under its dark fur. She saw the way its eyes scanned its territory, even though it was just an enclosure. Hana, however, was not listening to the instructor's warnings as closely as the others. She was watching the cub itself. She saw what the others did not. The cub was not just pacing because it was a predator. It was pacing because it was bored. It was lonely. Its movement was not a show of power, but a rhythm of frustration. It had no one to play with, no one to talk to. It was alone in its big red world. The cub stopped its pacing for a moment and looked towards the group of cadets. Its golden eyes moved over the different faces. It seemed to dismiss the blue-skinned cadet. It ignored the rock-like creature. Its gaze passed over Min, Tay, and Jin. Then its eyes stopped on Hana. Hana did not look away. She did not feel afraid. She felt a strange sense of curiosity. She looked right back into the cub's golden eyes. The cub took a step closer to the barrier. Its head was tilted slightly. It was curious, too. The instructor was still talking. A hunter cub is learning its place in the world. It will test boundaries. It will practice its skills. You must be careful not to become part of its practice. The cub was now only a few feet from the clear barrier, directly in front of Hana. It made a sound. It was a low, vibrating rumble that came from deep in its chest. It was not a loud growl, but a soft one, a questioning one. The sound was like the beginning of a thunderstorm far away. The other cadets near Hana heard it and grew tense. They remembered the instructor's words. This was a warning. This was how it started. Min looked up from his datapad, his face worried. He saw the cub focused on his friend. Hana, he whispered, step back. Remember the protocol. But Hana did not step back. Instead, she did something that made Min's heart freeze. She slowly knelt down. She lowered herself so that she was at the same eye level as the young cub. She placed her hands on her knees and leaned forward a little, her expression soft and open. She was not challenging the cub. She was not showing fear. She was just interested. The hunter cub Katur watched her. Its ears twitched. The low rumble in its chest continued. The two of them, the human cadet and the alien predator, stared at each other through the unbreakable wall. The rest of the world, the other cadets, the stern instructor, all seemed to fade away. In that moment, it was only the two of them. The low rumble from the cub was like a soft engine. It was a sound you could feel in your bones. Hana stayed on her knees, looking at the creature. Its black fur shone under the lights of the enclosure. Its golden eyes were fixed on her. She could see her own reflection in them, a small figure in a cadet uniform. Min was still standing behind her. He was very tense. He could not believe what Hana was doing. This was against all the rules. The instructor had been very clear. He wanted to reach out and pull her back. But he was frozen. He just watched, his datapad forgotten in his hand. Jin watched from a few steps away. Her sharp eyes saw everything. She saw the way the cub's muscles were relaxed. She saw that its claws were not out. This was not an attack stance. This was something else. But she did not know what. She felt a knot of worry in her stomach, but also a spark of curiosity. Tay had moved a little closer. He was fascinated. He saw the danger, but he also saw the thrill of it. He wondered what would happen next. He had never seen anyone get so close to a Zarkon before. The instructor's voice cut through the quiet. "Cadet, step away from the barrier immediately." Hana heard the command. But the cub was still looking at her. It had stopped its rumbling. It was now making a softer sound, a kind of chuffing noise. It tilted its head to the other side. It seemed to be asking a question. Slowly, very slowly, Hana raised her hand. She did not touch the barrier. She knew that was not allowed. But she placed her open palm against the air a few inches from the clear wall. It was a universal gesture. It meant, "I come in peace." It meant, "I am a friend." The cub looked at her hand. It took another step forward. Now its nose was almost touching the crystasteel. It sniffed the air. It could not smell her through the wall, but it could see her gesture. Then it did something that surprised everyone. It lifted one of its smaller front limbs. It had 6 limbs, and the 2 front ones were the most delicate. It raised this limb and placed its own paw against the wall exactly opposite Hana's hand. The sharp black claws were sheathed. The pad of its paw was a dark gray color. It was a mirror of her action. A wave of whispers went through the other cadets. The blue-skinned one took a step back in surprise. The rock-like creature made a low, grinding noise. The instructor was furious. "Cadet Hana, that is a direct order. Move back now." This time Hana listened. She lowered her hand and stood up. She did not break eye contact with the cub until she was fully standing. Then she took 2 slow steps back. The cub made a low, whining sound. It dropped its paw from the barrier. It looked disappointed. It turned around and walked back towards the red rocks, its tail drooping. The instructor marched over to Hana. His gray face was tight with anger. "What were you thinking? You directly violated safety protocols. You engaged with a Class 3 predator without authorization." Hana looked at the instructor, then back at the cub, which was now sitting on a rock, watching them. "I am sorry, sir. I did not mean to break the rules. It looked lonely." It was not being aggressive. It was trying to communicate. "You are not a xenolinguist, cadet. You are a student. It is not your job to decide if it was communicating. Your job was to observe and learn, not to interact." The instructor's voice was cold. You will report to Commander Park's office after this session. This will go on your record. Min closed his eyes for a second. He felt sick. A mark on your record this early in training was very bad. It could limit your future assignments. He looked at Hana, but she was not looking at him. She was still watching the cub. The instructor turned to the rest of the group. This is a perfect example of what not to do. Human sentimentality has no place here. We operate on facts and protocols. The fact is that creature is a predator. The protocol is do not engage. Is that understood? Yes, sir, the cadets said together. The rest of the session was quiet. The instructor continued his lecture about Zarkon society. He talked about their hunting packs and their honor codes, but none of the cadets were fully listening anymore. They kept glancing at Hana and at the lonely black cub on the rock. When the session was over, the cadets filed out of the xenozoology wing. The cold air was replaced by the normal, warm air of the academy corridors. As soon as they were outside, Min turned to Hana. What was that? Why would you do that? You heard what he said. You could have been hurt. The barrier was there, Min. I was safe, Hana said quietly. That's not the point, Min said, his voice frustrated. The point is the rules. We have to follow them. They exist for a reason. What if the cub had become enraged? What if it had hurt itself trying to get to you? The responsibility would have been yours. I know the rules, Hana said, but sometimes you have to look at what is really happening. That cub was not angry. It was curious. It was bored. It has no one to play with. Play? Jin spoke up. Her voice was thoughtful. You think it wanted to play? I think it was testing me, Hana said. Not as prey, but as something new. When I put my hand up, it did the same. That was not a threat, Tay nodded. It was pretty brave. And cool. It was not cool, Tay, Min said sharply. It was reckless. Now Hana has to see Commander Park. This is a serious problem. Hana sighed. She knew Min was right about that part. Seeing Commander Park was not going to be pleasant, but she could not shake the image of the cub's golden eyes. She could not forget the way it had placed its paw against the wall. They walked towards the dormitory building. The academy was a large place with high ceilings and clean white walls. Ships and shuttles flew past the large windows. Min was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I just do not want you to get into trouble or get hurt. I know, Hana said, and I appreciate that. But Min, we are training to go out into the galaxy. To meet new species, we cannot be afraid of everything that is different. Sometimes we have to take a small risk to make a connection. Min did not answer. He believed that the rules were there to minimize risk. They were the collective knowledge of everyone who had come before them. To ignore them was arrogant. When they reached the dormitory, they split up to go to their own rooms. Hana had to go and see Commander Park. Before she left, Jin touched her arm. For what it is worth, Jin said, I think you might be right. The cub's body language was not aggressive. It was social. The instructor was only looking at the species manual. You were looking at the individual. Hana gave her a small smile. Thank you, Jin. Then she turned and walked down the long hallway towards the commander's office. She felt nervous, but she also felt a strange certainty. She knew she had done something wrong by the rules. But in her heart, she felt she had done something right. The look in the cub's eyes was not something she could forget. It was a look that asked for a friend, and she had tried to answer. The walk to Commander Park's office felt very long. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever. Hana's boots made a soft sound on the clean floor. She thought about what she would say. How could she explain that she just felt it was the right thing to do? That did not sound like a good reason for a cadet. She stopped in front of a door. It was a simple gray door with a sign that said Commander Park. She took a deep breath and pressed the button to announce her presence. Enter, a voice said from inside. The door slid open. Commander Park's office was neat and tidy. There was a desk, a chair, and a screen on the wall. There were no personal items. Commander Park was a woman with a calm but strict face. She looked at Hana as she walked in. Cadet Hana, she said. Please sit down. Hana sat in the chair in front of the desk. She kept her back straight just like she had been taught. I have received a report from the xenozoology wing, Commander Park began. Her voice was even and did not show any anger. It says you disobeyed a direct order from your instructor. It says you engaged in unauthorized contact with a Zarkon hunter cub. This is a very serious matter, Cadet. Can you explain your actions? Hana looked at the commander. She decided to tell the truth. Sir, I know I broke the rules. I am sorry for that. But the cub was not being aggressive. It came to the barrier and made a soft sound. It looked at me. I felt that it was lonely and curious. When I knelt down, it did not show any signs of anger. When I put my hand up, it put its paw up too. It was copying me. I believe it was trying to communicate in a friendly way. Commander Park listened quietly. She did not interrupt. When Hana finished, the commander was silent for a moment. She looked at the report on her screen. The rules are there for your safety, cadet, and for the safety of the creatures we study. The Zarkon are predators. Their instincts are not like ours. What you see as friendliness, they might see as weakness, or as a challenge. Your instructor was right to be concerned. I understand, sir, Hana said. Her heart felt heavy. However, Commander Park continued, the report also notes that the cub did not become aggressive. In fact, it became quiet. It disengaged when you did. This is not the typical reaction we see. Hana looked up, a little hope in her eyes. I am not going to remove this from your record, the commander said. You broke a clear rule and there must be a consequence. But I am also not going to give you a severe punishment. Instead, I have a different task for you. A task, sir? Yes, I want you to write a report. I want you to write down everything that happened. Every detail you remember. What the cub looked like. How it moved. The sounds it made. What you did and why you did it. I want you to explain your thinking. This report will be added to the cub's file. The xenozoologists might find it interesting. Hana nodded. Yes, sir. I can do that. Good. You have 2 days to complete it. You are dismissed, cadet. Hana stood up. Thank you, sir. She left the office and walked back into the hallway. She felt a mix of relief and worry. It was good that she did not get a harsh punishment. But she still had a mark on her record, and she had to write a very important report. When she returned to the dormitory, her friends were waiting for her in the common room. Min, Jin, and Tae were all there. They looked at her with worried faces. What happened? Min asked immediately. I have to write a report, Hana said. She sat down on a soft chair. It will go on my record, but no other punishment. Min let out a sigh of relief. That is good news. You were lucky. It is not just a punishment, Jin said thoughtfully. A report for the xenozoologists? That means they are interested in what happened. I think Commander Park was curious too, Hana said. She did not just yell at me. She listened. What are you going to write? Tae asked. The truth, Hana said.
I am going to write exactly what I saw and what I felt. Later that evening, Hana sat at the small desk in her room.
Her screen was blank. She thought back to the moment in the xenozoology wing. She closed her eyes and tried to remember everything. She remembered the exact shade of the cub's golden eyes. She remembered the way the light shone on its black fur. She remembered the low rumble that was not scary, but more like a cat's purr. She remembered the tilt of its head. It was a gesture of confusion, not anger. She started to type. She described everything in great detail. She wrote about how the cub's pacing seemed sad, not powerful. She wrote about the moment it noticed her. She wrote about the soft sound it made. She explained why she knelt down. She explained that she was not trying to challenge it. She was trying to understand it. She wrote for a long time. When she finished, she read over her words. It was a good report. It was honest. The next day was a free day for the cadets. They had no classes. Most of them used the time to study or relax. But Hana could not stop thinking about the cub. She wondered if it was still sitting on that rock. She wondered if it was still bored. I am going back to the xenozoology wing, she told Min at lunch. Min almost dropped his fork. What, why? You just got in trouble for that. I am not going to break any rules this time, Hana said. I just want to look. From a distance. I want to see if it is okay. Jin looked up from her food. I will come with you. I want to observe its behavior again, Tae grinned. Me too. This is more interesting than studying engine diagrams. Min sighed. He did not want to go. He thought it was a bad idea. But he also did not want his friends to go without him. Fine, I will come. But we are following the rules. We stay behind the safety line. We do not make any contact. They finished their lunch and walked to the xenozoology wing. The cold air felt familiar now. The wild smell was still there. They walked to the viewing area for the Zarkon enclosure. The cub was not on the rock. It was lying down near the purple stream, its head on its paws. It looked sleepy. Hana stood at the very back behind the safety line on the floor. She did not want to cause any more trouble, but then the cub's head lifted, its ears twitched. It turned its head and its golden eyes looked straight at Hana. It was like it knew she was there. It stood up. It did not run or pace. It walked slowly towards the barrier. It stopped on the other side of the crystal steel wall right in front of Hana. It was looking at her again. Min tensed up. "Do not do anything, Hana, just look." Hana nodded. She did not move. She just looked back at the cub. The cub sat down. It made that same soft chuffing sound. Then it lifted one of its front limbs and placed its paw against the wall again. It was doing the same thing it had done the day before. It remembered her. Jin watched, her eyes wide. "Fascinating. It is initiating the contact. It recognizes you," Tay whispered. "It wants to be your friend." Min was silent. He saw the cub's action. He saw that it was not aggressive. It was patient. It was waiting. For the first time, he started to wonder if Hana was right. Maybe the rules did not tell the whole story. Maybe there was more to this creature than anyone knew. Hana felt a warm feeling in her chest. The cub remembered her. It was not afraid. It was not angry. It just wanted to see her again. She smiled at the cub. She did not break the rules. She did not move. She just stood there and smiled. The cub made a different sound. It was a very low, soft rumble. It almost sounded like it was happy. Then it lay down, right there in front of the barrier, and continued to watch her. It was calm. It was content. They stood there for a long time, just watching each other. No rules were broken, but a connection was being made, and this time Min, Jin, and Tay were there to see it. They were all starting to understand that Hana had seen something special. Something that was not in any of their training manuals. The next week was a strange one for the group of friends. Hana had turned in her report to Commander Park. She did not know what would happen with it, but she could not stop thinking about the cub. She visited the xenozoology wing every day after her classes were finished. She always followed the rules. She stood behind the safety line. She did not make any sudden moves, and every day the cub was waiting for her. It was the same routine. Hana would walk into the viewing area. The cub would be lying near the barrier. It would see her and its ears would perk up. It would get to its feet and walk to the crystal steel wall. It would sit down and place its paw against the clear surface. It would make its soft, chuffing sound. Hana would stand there and talk to it. She knew it could not understand her words, but she thought it might like the sound of her voice. "Hello again," she would say softly. "How are you today? Did you have a good day?" The cub would just watch her, its golden eyes focused on her face. Sometimes it would tilt its head when she spoke. Sometimes it would make its rumbling sound in return. Min usually came with her. He was still worried, but his worry was changing. He was no longer worried that the cub would attack. He was starting to worry that Hana was getting too attached. What would happen when their training moved on? They would not always be at the academy. They could not take the cub with them. Jin came often too. She had started her own notes. She wrote down the cub's behavior. She timed how long it would sit with Hana. She noted the different sounds it made. She was treating it like a science project. Tay came when he was bored. He thought it was a cool thing to see. He liked telling other cadets that his friend had a pet Zarkon cub, even though it was not a pet. One afternoon, they were all there together. Hana was talking to the cub. Jin was writing in her notebook. Min was watching the door, half expecting the angry instructor to come back. The cub was particularly active that day. It was pacing a little in front of Hana. Then it suddenly jumped back and crouched down. Its hindquarters wiggled in the air. It was a classic play pounce stance. Every creature that ever played seemed to know that position. Then it growled. This was not the soft rumbling sound. This was a sharper, louder growl. It was a sound with an edge to it. It was a sound that said, "I am pretending to hunt you." The reaction from the cadets was instant. Min froze. His eyes went wide. This was it. This was the aggression the instructor had warned them about. Jin stopped writing. Her hand tightened on her pen. This was new data, and it was alarming data. Tay took a step back, his coolness forgotten. The rules flashed in their minds. Do not show fear. Do not challenge it. But what were you supposed to do when it challenged you? Hana looked at the crouching cub. She saw its wiggling back end. She saw the playful light in its golden eyes. This was not a real hunt. This was a game. She knew this game. She had played it with dogs. She had played it with kittens. She did not run. She did not show fear. She did something that made her friend's blood run cold. She crouched down, too. She got into a low stance mirroring the cub. She put her hands on her knees like front paws. She narrowed her eyes pretending to stalk. Then she growled back. It was a playful human version of a growl. It came from her throat. Krr, she rumbled, a short and silly sound. Then she laughed. It was a clear, happy laugh that filled the quiet room. It was the sound of pure joy. For a moment, everything was perfectly still. Min could not breathe. He was sure an alarm would sound. He was sure the cub would leap at the barrier in a rage. But the cub did not get angry. It seemed confused for a second. Its head tilted. Its ears twitched. The play pounce stance relaxed. Then it made a new sound. It was a kind of huffing, chuffing bark. It jumped forward and then bounced back. It rolled onto its side and then jumped up again. It was not angry. It was excited. It was happy. It had finally found someone who understood the rules of the game. Hana laughed again and stood up. The cub stopped its bouncing and looked at her. It made the soft rumbling sound again and lay down, its tail wagging slowly from side to side. The other cadets slowly began to relax. The tension drained out of the room. Min let out a long, shaky breath. Jin started writing furiously in her notebook. A small smile appeared on Tae's face. You growled back, Min said, his voice weak. You actually growled at it. And it worked, Jin said, looking up from her notes. Her voice was full of wonder. It understood. That was not a threat display. That was an invitation to play. And you accepted. You spoke its language. Hana looked at her friends. She saw the shock on their faces. I told you, she said simply. It was lonely. It just wanted to play. It was asking me if I wanted to play too. Min walked closer to the barrier. He looked at the cub. The cub looked back at him, its eyes calm. It was no longer a scary alien predator in his mind. It was just a young animal. A young animal that needed a friend. He thought about all the rules. The rules were important. They kept people safe. But rules were based on what people already knew. What happened when you learned something new? Hana had just learned something new. She had learned that a Zarkon cub could be playful. She had learned that a growl could be an invitation. She had learned that you could answer that invitation with a laugh. That evening, the story spread through the cadet dormitories. The story of the human cadet who growled at the hunter cub and laughed. Some people thought she was crazy. Some people thought she was brave. But everyone was talking about it. Hana did not care about the gossip. She was just happy. She had made a friend. And she had shown her own friends that the galaxy was not always a scary place. Sometimes it was a place where you could find a playmate, even if that playmate had 6 legs and golden eyes. The story of Hana and the cub did not just stay with the cadets. It reached the people in charge of the academy. It reached the xenozoologists, the scientists who studied alien life. Commander Park called Hana back to her office a few days later. This time, the walk felt different. Hana was not nervous. She felt calm. She had done what she felt was right and nothing bad had happened. In fact, something good had happened. She entered the office. Commander Park was there, but she was not alone. A tall, thin man with glasses was with her. He was dressed in a scientist's coat. Cadet Hana, Commander Park said. This is Dr. Lee. He is the head of the xenozoology department. Dr. Lee smiled at Hana. It was a warm, curious smile. It is a pleasure to meet you, Cadet. I have read your report, and I have seen the security footage from the enclosure. Your interactions with the Katur are fascinating. Thank you, sir, Hana said. Fascinating, Dr. Lee repeated. We have always studied the Zarkon from a distance. We see them as warriors, as hunters. We record their warning growls and their threat displays, but we have never seen this play behavior so clearly. You have started a dialogue with it, Commander Park nodded. Your initial actions were against protocol, Cadet, but the results have opened a new line of inquiry. Dr. Lee has proposed a new assignment for you, one that will replace the mark on your record. Hana's eyes widened. A new assignment? Yes, Dr. Lee said. We want you to continue your visits to the cub. But now it will be official. You will be a research assistant. Your job will be to interact with the cub just as you have been. But you will do it under observation. We will record everything, the sounds it makes, its body language, your interactions. We want to learn the language of Zarkon play. Hana could not believe it. Her punishment had turned into a reward. "I would like that very much, sir." "Excellent," Dr. Lee said. "You can start today. And Cadet," he added, his tone serious for a moment, "there are still rules. For your safety, we will have a biological containment team on standby just in case. We still do not know everything about this species." "I understand," Hana said. When she left the office, she felt like she was floating. She ran to find her friends. She found them in the common room, studying. "You will not believe it," she said, her face glowing with excitement. She told them everything. About Dr. Lee, about the research assignment, about the mark being removed from her record. Min was the most surprised. He had been so sure that rules were the only path. Now he saw that sometimes breaking a rule could lead to a new discovery. "I am happy for you, Hana," he said, and he meant it. Jin was thrilled. "This is a perfect application of field observation. Can I help? I can take notes." Tay laughed. "I knew it. I knew you were on to something." That afternoon, they all went to the xenozoology wing together, but this time it was different. Dr. Lee was there with 2 other scientists. There were small cameras mounted around the viewing area. Everything was ready. The cub was lying by the barrier as if it had been waiting. When it saw Hana, it got up and came to its usual spot. Dr. Lee watched closely. "Remarkable. It anticipates her arrival." Hana stood behind the safety line. She smiled at the cub. "Hello, my friend." The cub chuffed and put its paw on the wall. For the next hour, Hana and the cub played their game. Hana would crouch and the cub would crouch. Hana would make a playful growl, and the cub would make its playful bark and bounce around. Hana would hide behind a support pillar for a second and peek out, and the cub would mimic her, ducking behind a rock and peeking out with one golden eye. The scientists recorded every second. They analyzed the sounds the cub made. They noted the positions of its ears and tail. They saw that its claws were always sheathed during play. Its teeth were never bared in a snarl. Dr. Lee was especially interested in the sounds. "That sound you make, Cadet, the growl, it is not a sound of aggression. It is a sound of engagement. The cub has learned the difference. It is responding in kind." After the session, Dr. Lee showed them some of the data on a screen. He played back the sound of the cub's playful bark. "We have never classified this sound before. We always thought it was a minor variant of a warning chuff, but now we see it as a distinct vocalization. It means I want to play." He looked at Hana with great respect. "You have not just made a friend, Cadet. You have given us a new key to understanding an entire species. The Zarkon are not just hunters. They are social creatures. They play. They have a culture of play. This changes how we will interact with them forever." The weight of his words settled on the group. It was not just about a girl and a cub anymore. It was about humans and Zarkon. It was about 2 species learning to understand each other better. In the following weeks, Hana's life had a new routine. She went to her normal classes. She studied engineering and navigation and diplomacy. But her favorite part of the day was her research time with the cub. She became a familiar sight in the xenozoology wing. The other cadets would sometimes come to watch. They saw the human and the predator playing together. They saw that it was possible to bridge the gap between species. Min, Jin, and Tae were always there with her. They were her team. Min helped organize the research schedules. Jin continued her detailed notes, which the scientists found very useful. Tae helped with setting up the recording equipment. The cub grew bigger. Its legs got longer. Its muscles became more powerful. But its behavior with Hana never changed. It was always happy to see her. It always wanted to play. One day, Hana was sitting on the floor in front of the barrier just talking to the cub. It was lying down, its head on its paws, listening to the sound of her voice. Its tail gave a slow, contented swish. Dr. Lee came and stood beside her. "He has a name, you know," he said softly. Hana looked up, surprised. "He does?" The Zarkon who donated him for study provided a name. "It is Katur. It means little storm in their language." Hana looked back at the cub. Katur, Little Storm, it was a perfect name. "Hello, Katur," she whispered. The cub's ears twitched. He lifted his head and made his soft, rumbling sound. It was the first sound he had ever made to her. It was the sound that had started it all. Hana knew that one day she would have to leave the academy. She knew that Katur would grow into a full-sized hunter. Their playtimes would end, but she also knew that what they had done here was important. They had not just become friends. They had shown everyone that friendship was possible, even between a human and a hunter cub from the stars. They had turned a growl into a laugh and a warning into a game, and that was a lesson that would last long after they were both gone. The seasons changed on the Academy world. The trees outside the big windows turned from green to gold. For Hana and her friends, it was a time of tests and final projects. They were almost finished with their first year of training. Hana's time with Katur, the little storm, continued. But everyone could see that things were changing. Katur was not a cub anymore. He was getting big. His shoulders were now level with Hana's waist. His playful pounces shook the ground inside his enclosure. His growl was deeper, more powerful. It was the growl of a strong young animal, not a little cub. Hana still visited him every day. Their games were the same, but they felt different. She could not help but feel a little sad. She knew their time together was ending. One afternoon, Dr. Lee asked to see her after a play session. His face was kind but serious. "The time has come, Hana," he said. "Katur is almost fully grown. The Zarkon representatives are coming next week. They will be taking him back to his homeworld. He needs to join a real hunter pack. He needs to learn the ways of his own people." Hana nodded. She had known this day would come. But knowing it did not make it easier. Her heart felt heavy. "I understand," she said softly. "What you have done here is very important," Dr. Lee said. "We have learned so much. We have shared our findings with the Zarkon. They are very interested. They did not know that their young could form such a bond with another species. You have helped build a bridge between our people." That was a big thought. Hana had just wanted to be friends with a lonely cub. She had not thought about building bridges between worlds. The news spread quickly. Min Jin and Tae found her sitting by the window in the common room, looking out at the golden trees. "Are you okay?" Min asked, sitting beside her. "I knew it was going to happen," Hana said. "But it still hurts." Jin sat on her other side. "It is the logical next step. He belongs with his own kind. But we're his kind," Tae said, frustrated. "We're his friends." Hana smiled a little. "We are, but Jin is right. He needs to be with others, Archon. He needs to be free." For the next week, Hana spent as much time as she could with Katur. She did not play as much. She just sat by the barrier and talked to him. He seemed to understand that something was changing. He was quieter, too. He would lie close to the wall, his large golden eyes watching her, listening to her voice. Finally, the day arrived. A Zarkon ship landed at the Academy. It was sleek and dark, shaped like a sharp arrow. The Zarkon who came out were impressive. They were tall, powerful beings with the same sleek black fur and golden eyes as Katur. But they were much bigger. They moved with a quiet confidence that made everyone pay attention. Hana and her friends were allowed to be in the xenozoology wing to say goodbye. Dr. Lee and Commander Park were also there. One of the Zarkon, a large male, approached Hana. His voice was a deep rumble like distant thunder. "You are the human called Hana?" "Yes," Hana said, her voice small. "I am Kavor of the Stormfang Pack. We are Katur's family. We have seen the recordings. We have heard the sounds you shared with him." He looked at her with his intense golden eyes. "You have taught him a new song, a song of play. This is a great gift. Our people thank you." Hana did not know what to say. She just bowed her head. It was time. The scientists opened a large door in the enclosure. Kavor made a low calling sound. Katur came out. He walked proudly, his head high. He looked like a true hunter now. He went to stand with the other Zarkon. He was going home. Hana felt a tear roll down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. But then Katur turned. He looked away from his pack and back at Hana. He walked towards her, stopping just a few feet away. The powerful adult Zarkon watched him, but they did not stop him. Katur looked at Hana. He made a sound. It was the very first sound he had ever made to her. The low, soft, rumbling growl that was not a threat but a question. Hana's breath caught in her throat. She knew what she had to do. It was how their story had begun. She leaned forward a little. She looked into his golden eyes, and she growled back. It was the same playful, rumbling sound from that first day. Then she laughed. It was a laugh mixed with tears, but it was still a happy sound. Katur made his happy, chuffing bark. He nodded his large head once as if to say goodbye. Then he turned and walked back to his pack. He did not look back again. He was ready for his new life. The Zarkon left, taking Katur with them. The enclosure was empty. The room felt very quiet. Hana stood there for a long time, looking at the empty red rocks. Min put a hand on her shoulder. "You did a good thing, Hana." "He will be okay," Jin said softly. "He has a whole world to explore. And he'll never forget you," Tai added. Hana nodded. She knew they were right. She was sad, but she was also proud. She had befriended a little storm. She had shown everyone that friendship was stronger than fear. A few days later, Commander Park called Hana into her office one last time. She had a small box on her desk. "This arrived for you on the Zarkon ship," Commander Park said. She handed the box to Hana. Hana opened it. Inside, on a soft piece of black cloth, was a single sharp claw. It was as long as her finger and black as obsidian. It was tied to a simple leather cord. "It is a claw from Katur's first shed," Commander Park explained. "For the Zarkon, it is a sign of great respect. It means you are part of his pack. You are family." Hana held the claw in her hand. It was smooth and cool. It was a piece of her friend. She wore it every day after that. It was a reminder of her first great adventure. It was a reminder that in the vast and sometimes scary galaxy, a simple act of kindness, an answered growl, and a laugh could build a friendship that crossed between stars. She knew that one day, she would go out into that galaxy as an explorer, and she would always remember to look past the rules and the warnings and to see the individual. To see the friend who might be waiting on the other side of the barrier.